So you've decided you want to buy in Cambridge and Somerville. You want to live there as your primary residence, and you're going to buy a nice condo, maybe even a single family if it's in your budget. In today's video, I'm going to try and convince you guys why instead of buying that condo, instead of buying that single family, you should buy a multifamily, and how in the end it's going to cost you a little bit more upfront and save you a lot more in the long run, and allow you to retire a lot younger than you would have otherwise. If you guys don't know me, my name is Sage Jankowitz. I'm a realtor based in Cambridge and Somerville, Massachusetts. I've closed over 300 transactions in the last 3 years. If you guys have questions as I go through the video, make sure you hit that Calendly link in the description below. And of course, you can always subscribe to this video, hit that little bell icon so you can be notified when new videos come up. So in this video, I thought the best way to convince you is to share a real world example, but I need to provide a couple caveats first. So this is a real world example. However, the client who purchased this, it was actually a pure investment. They didn't own or occupy. Number one, this is a real client. This was a real multifamily purchase. This particular client did not own or occupy. They bought as a pure investment. So you need to be aware that in this actual real world example, they were an investor. So actually the terms would have been better if you were a primary buyer in the sense that you live in one unit and rented out the other two. Second of all, a lot of the numbers I reference, they're estimates. I can't get down to every penny and cent for some of these things. Some of it is information I just don't have access to. For instance, I don't know exactly what rate my client actually got for this particular property, but I was able to guesstimate based on rates at the time of the purchase. So understand that all the numbers here are estimates, they're rough estimates, but they should be right within a few $100s, which with the numbers we're talking about should be pretty darn good. So it should give you a feel for what is possible. Third, I believe in reasonably priced rentals. I am not someone who believes in price gouging. I believe that tenants should have rights. I believe that owners should also have rights. And I believe that there is a middle ground. So when I came up with this example, the rents I provide are reasonable rates that I know from personal experience. A lot of renters would be very happy with this rate, but not a rate that is so low where you're gonna have 100 people knocking on the door. And I find that that's really in the best interest of everyone, but I'll get into the specifics of that in another video. And finally, in this example, this was a great buy. I pride myself on every single buy being a great buy, and I really mean that. But this was an exceptional buy. I think anyone is possible if you have enough patience and you understand that it's going to take time because only so much inventory comes up, and of that, only so much is good. But I'm a big believer in patience in real estate, period. And I think that you can buy a property not too far off from this one if you take the time and patience to do things right. So first off, let's talk a little bit about the property. The subject property that you're gonna own or occupy and that actually was purchased is a 3-family in Somerville. It's in an up and coming part of Somerville, so it's not like a Davisport or Square part, but it is an up and coming part that is decently cool and becoming cooler. It was purchased for around $1.15 million for a 3-family, which is a great price, but totally plausible in an up and coming part of Somerville. And at the time, all 3 units were occupied, although some leases were expiring, and rents were going for between $1,600 and $2,200 a month. So that's the property situation, okay? Next, why did we decide to buy it? Well, there was multiple reasons. The first was rents were wildly under market rate. I knew that without major updates, we should be able to get rents more in the $2,400 to $2,700 a month range, something like that. And I was conservative and told my client at the time $2,400 a month. I believe, second of all, that the property was in very good condition and it was a turnkey property. This did not require major updates for the most part. It did not require cosmetic updates. It did not require changes to layouts. It basically was a set it and forget it property. One caveat, the roof did need to be totally redone, which was not cheap. It was, I think, around $15,000 to fix this particular roof. So that was cheap and difficult for the first couple months. But outside of that one fix, it was basically turnkey. Next, I believe that the layout was very good. I know what renters want throughout Somerville and Cambridge, and I know that this checked all the boxes that the vast majority of renters are looking for. It had a really nice sized living room. It had really high ceilings. It had a nice sized bedroom. It had a really nice kitchen with a dining area. It had a lot of those box checks, as I call them. It had washer dryer in unit. It had central AC. It had a back deck. It had a dishwasher, it had a gas stove, I can go on and on. But it checked a lot of the things that renters in this area want, which means that year over year, it should be easy to rent, rent should steadily increase and there'd never be an issue with demand. And finally, overall, I just believed in the long-term potential of both this property and this area. I've seen how much this area has changed recently. I see where things are going, and I know with a lot of confidence that this area is going to continue to get better and better over the long haul. And I felt that this property would continue to be desirable and attract quality tenants and create win-wins year after year. Next, let's get into the expenses. So for this particular property, again, the purchase price was $1.15 million. We're going to assume in this example that you as the buyer purchasing as an owner occupant are going to put 20% down, which is $230,000. Now keep in mind, because you are a primary buyer, you could technically put less down. It would reduce the likelihood of your offer being accepted because it would make it a weaker offer. So that's something to be aware of. But understand, and benefit of being a primary buyer is you can technically put less down. But again, we put 20% down, $230,000. At the time of this purchase, I know it's crazy now in 2023, but at the time of this purchase, interest rates for 30-year fixed were hovering around 3%. So assuming 3%, 20% down, 1.15 purchase price, you're looking at a mortgage payment of about $3,900 a month. Next up, property taxes for this particular property came in at about $725 a month. Now keep in mind, if you were an owner occupant, the city of Somerville has a residential exemption, which would reduce that significantly by multiple thousands of dollars. I'm not going to get into the specifics, and we're going to ignore that piece for this video, but understand that actually this number would be lower after about a year or so if you were an owner occupant. Finally, let's guesstimate your property insurance is about $250. For the sake of this example, we are not going to pay attention to maintenance, although if you wanted to, you could put aside a few $1,000s a year for maintenance and probably be in a pretty good place over the long run. So based on these three numbers, we have $3,900 for the mortgage, we have $725 for property taxes, and we have about $250 for property insurance. That brings our monthly expense total to $4,875 all in prior to maintenance. Next up would be the income. In this example, let's assume again that you're living in one of the units, so you only have income coming from the other two units. Now, as it turned out, the renters left the property and new renters came in, so I actually know what we rented them for. We rented them for $2,600 for each unit. So let's assume that you live in one unit, we rent out the other two for $2,600 each. So what does this mean? Well, now you have two people living in two separate units and you're living in another unit, and you're actually making $325 a month. Now, granted, there could be maintenance that maybe we'll say ends up being about $2,000 a year. That still would leave you with about $1,600 in your pocket to live in Somerville for free. That is a huge, unbelievable swing versus if you were a renter paying $2,600, you're actually making money and living for free in a very desirable area. But wait, there's more. Not only are you essentially getting paid to live in a one-bedroom apartment in Somerville, but there are a slew of other benefits. First, the property is appreciating in value. For the sake of this example, I'm going to be conservative and I would guesstimate on average over the long run, it would be appreciating about $30,000 a year. Very well could be appreciating more, but I think conservatively that's a pretty fair guess. That means you're going to be making an extra $30,000 a year in growth and appreciation. But while this is happening and you're living there, the renters are paying down the mortgage for you. So you're actually gaining equity. So your loan is decreasing and the property is increasing. But wait, there's even more. The rent is also going up. Conservatively, you could say $50 a year should be very achievable and still be a very desirable unit year after year. So every year, you're basically increasing your rent by about $1,200 a year. And on top of all this, there's all these tax benefits. You have all these write-offs. You have depreciation. If you ever want to sell the thing, you can do a 1031 exchange and defer all of those appreciation gains we talked about earlier. And then on top of all that, the cherry on top is you're living in the unit right now. Perhaps one day you decide to leave that unit. Well, that's another $2,600 today, but 5 years from now, that could be $2,800 or $2,900 per unit times 3. So as you can see, The multiplying effect of all these things at once really starts to add up, and all of a sudden, what becomes a pretty good situation can become a cash cow for you. And I have seen many people, including a lot of blue-collar people, whose lives have been dramatically changed by the power of a multifamily purchase. I hope this video was helpful for you and made you at least start thinking about maybe it makes sense to look a little bit more at multifamilies as opposed to just going the condo or single family route. Of course, there are some cons to owning a multifamily, which we'll save for another video, but overall, I think there's a lot of positive things here. If you like what you saw today, please take a second to hit that subscribe button in the link below. If you have questions about this video, set up a free 15-minute Calendly with me, also in the link below. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.